This week on Jerusalem Dateline, Barack Obama announces his first visit to Israel since he became president 5 years ago. Plus, the threat from Syria. Israel strikes a weapons convoy and a chemical weapons plant in Syria, and Iran threatens to respond. Will Syria's civil war turn into a wider conflict? And a tale of two textbooks. What are Palestinians teaching their children about the Jewish state? Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. President Barack Obama says he plans to bring an urgent agenda to his upcoming trip to Israel. He plans to focus on regional issues such as stopping Iran's quest for nuclear weapons and the war in Syria. He also wants to bring Israelis and Palestinians back to the negotiating table. The visit is planned for this spring. The president last visited Israel when he was campaigning before the 2008 election. Here to talk about this topic and other topics in the Middle East is here in our Jerusalem bureau is CBN News correspondent Julie Stahl. And in our Virginia Beach studio is CBN senior editor John Waggy. John, I'll start with you. This just came a few days ago, this announcement about the presidential election, but the White House seems to be downplaying expectations already. What are you hearing?
Well, that's exactly right, Chris. And I think wisely, they're saying, look, no big dramatic announcement about the peace process is going to come out of this trip. That's setting expectations low. That's a typical thing that administrations do. And I think it's the right thing to do in this case. At the same time, they do want to see the Israelis and Palestinians talking to each other again. And behind the scenes, I think there's going to be an incredible push for Benjamin Netanyahu to make that happen. And in exchange, he wants to see the U.S. take a strong stand supporting Israel on behalf of their conflict with Iran and, if it comes to it, Syria.
And do you also see, John, some difference between the new Secretary of State, Kerry, and President Obama in what they want to do with the, quote, peace process?
Absolutely, Chris. Well, Kerry has just been sworn in, and now he's head of the State Department. And the State Department has a vested interest in the peace process. They have to have it almost the way a mammal needs oxygen. And so the peace process has to be moving forward. Kerry has particular interest in it because he's been around so long in Washington, and he wants to be the man that brings together finally an agreement out of the Israelis and Palestinians, and I think he thinks he's the one to do it. So while he'll take a back seat to President Obama, he still is going to push and push and push to make sure the two sides are talking again. He really, really wants to see that happen.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't be the first Secretary of State to think that he can finally break through the peace process. Julie, what do you think here in Israel?
That's what they all do.
Exactly, that's right, John. Julie, how are Israelis feeling about this news that Obama's finally coming?
Yeah, I think probably, like you said, most Israelis think, well, you know, it's about time that he comes here because he never came after he was elected president, although he was in the region. On the other hand, maybe there's a little apprehension about what is he going to try to extract from the Israelis. I know the Palestinians also, they were saying today, wow, we really hope he brings a settlement freeze.
Another president made a surprising move this week. Iran's President Ahmadinejad said that the Islamic State is already a nuclear state. That's what he told an Egyptian newspaper, and he may not be that far from the truth. One Israeli security expert said Iran has already the nuclear resources to build a nuclear bomb. Now he only needs 4 to 6 months to enrich enough military-grade uranium to finish the task. So he says Iran is just waiting for the right time to break out.
In the eye of the Iranians, 4 to 6 months are too long time. And the situation in the world is not such that they think that they can get away with it. They want the time of breakout to be much shorter, and they are waiting for international crisis that the attention will be moved from them.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he has drawn a red line, and that red line is that not allowing Iran to weaponize their nuclear program. John, you know, one other thing that Amos Yadlin said during that briefing is that he wanted Israel or the West to negotiate with Iran. What do you think of that suggestion?
Well, I think it pretty much flies in the face of almost everything the Netanyahu administration has said as long as Bibi has been in the Prime Minister's office, and even longer than that. Netanyahu's been talking red lines, as you mentioned earlier. The negotiations, I don't know where that's coming from, and I think that it makes Washington feel better, it makes Europe feel better. I can't imagine it makes the Israelis more secure unless they realize that all the talking in the world that they suggest isn't going to come to fruition. The Iranians have pretty much rejected it out of hand based on what the Ayatollah Khamenei said today about not talking with the U.S. even. But it was it does show the fever that there is to try and dialogue as opposed to having a conflict that could upset the entire world.
Julie, you know, the Iran issue has been sort of muted here for the last few months in Israel because of the elections. The elections are over right now. What's Bibi Netanyahu saying? You know,
Netanyahu said just this week that it's still the top issue, that Iran, that's the most important issue that Israel will have to deal with this new government. And that's why one of the reasons he wants a wide government. I think Israelis themselves really they're more focused on their own internal issues, probably like every other country, like Americans. You know, they're more concerned about the economy and the rain or the everyday things in life. Although for Israelis, it's definitely always kind of lurking around in the background.
You know, John, I guess the signals coming from the U.S., from, you know, Vice President Joe Biden, I guess perhaps from future, Secretary of State John Kerry, and also maybe the designated Secretary of Defense, whether or not he gets nominated or approved is going to be another question. But it seems they still want to push for negotiations with Iran.
Absolutely. You wonder when that red line is finally going to be crossed, and it looks now like we're talking a matter of months before Iran and a nuclear weapon are operable. And in that case, the world has a whole different set of permutations, but apparently much of the diplomatic world is relatively comfortable with that. It's a real mystery to me.
Yeah, well, on another front, it looks like Israel has attacked a Syrian's weapon depot outside Damascus and a weapons convoy headed for Lebanon. And Iran and Syria have promised a surprise retaliation against Israel. And it has some wondering whether Syria's civil war will erupt into a regional conflict. The Syrian government convened an emergency meeting to condemn the Israeli airstrike. Days before the strike, Iran warned that any attack against Syria would be considered an attack against Iran. Israeli media concluded the urgent need to strike inside Syria outweighed the risk of Iranian or Syrian retaliation.
And we see definitely a higher level of threat perception in America as well as in Israel about the possibility of this type of weapons falling into the hands of the opposition or in the hands of Hezbollah.
Officially, Israel will not comment on the attack. In the past, it has declared red lines. It would not allow Syria's vast chemical weapons stockpile to fall into Hezbollah or jihadi terrorist hands, or game-changing weapon systems. With Syrian President Assad losing control of more and more of his country, the likelihood of more Israeli strikes is growing. Without action by Western countries, one Israeli official said, it could well be that we will reach a stage where we will have to make decisions. Israel positioned Iron Dome anti-missile batteries in the north against possible retaliation, but it seems unlikely Hezbollah or Syria would attack Israel openly at this point.
I think Assad has no interest in escalating the conflict. His plate is full with fighting the opposition. This is why Israel has greater leeway than usual.
The greater threat seems to be from an attack against Israeli or Jewish targets abroad, like the attack on an Israeli tourist bus at the airport in Bulgaria last summer. What's Israel's fears about, when Assad falls? There's a perception, I think, here that Assad is going to fall eventually. But what's the fears that Israel has if and when that happens?
I think there's really two main fears. One is that the chemical weapons could fall into the hands of terrorists, or that Assad could try to ship them over the border into Lebanon. But the other fear is that a lot of these jihadi elements that have come to topple Assad will then be kind of free to do whatever else they want to do, and they could mount attacks across the border from Syria into Israel.
John, do you think this sort of brings Israel into a direct role right now in Syria's civil war?
Well, it certainly brings it closer, the airstrike that just took place, and the fact, in the recent piece, I mean, you had the mention of the Iron Domes being deployed to the north. I don't think we can underestimate that. I mean, these were placed there near the Gaza border to fend off these hundreds of rockets that came from Gaza, and now they've been moved to the north. I think there's a real concern, and there has been a report in a Saudi paper that they already have mustard gas and some chemical weapons in Hezbollah's hands in southern Lebanon. If that's the case, Israel really has to be prepared for some sort of intensified military action up on the northern border. No matter what Israeli officials may say about Assad having his plate full, part of him having his plate full may be that he's desperate and needs to deal with Israel.
I think you're right, John, and especially about those Iron Dome batteries. I mean, they already deployed 2, and then they just deployed a 3rd just a few days ago. So I think that does tell us, as you point out, that Israel takes this quite seriously. John, thank you for your analysis there in Virginia Beach, and Julie here in Jerusalem. Coming up, a question of perspective. How do Israelis and Palestinians teach their kids the facts of the modern Middle East?
Today we're on a field trip to discover what inflation is doing to our paper money. In this hand is a $20 bill, and in this hand is a $20 US gold coin. They used to have the same buying power, but how much can they buy today? In this first basket is what my $20 bill buys: milk, bread, peanut butter, and jelly. And here's what one $20 gold coin will buy: 6 baskets full, worth nearly $2,000, almost 100 times more food, simply by owning gold dollars instead of paper dollars. History shows that the gold coins have been the best way to beat the rising cost of living. So class, the moral is that unless you want to live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the future, you should turn some paper dollars into gold coins now. How and why is explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. Call the number below for a totally free copy. And that's the simple truth.
Help! If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was.
Help!
And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
Welcome back to Jerusalem Dateline. A State Department report on Israeli-Palestinian textbooks shows that students get only one side of the ongoing conflict. The negative bias is hardly a surprise, but some wonder if there's an agenda behind the report. Israel has long charged that Palestinians teach their children to hate Israel at school and through the media. Now a research project paid for by the State Department claims, at least in textbooks, that's not true.
And the result shows that there's almost no stereotype, there's no hate speech, there's no inciting for violence in the Palestinian textbooks.
American, Israeli, and Palestinian researchers spent 3 years examining hundreds of textbooks to determine how the two sides portrayed themselves and each other. Palestinian Authority Prime Minister Salam Fayyad welcomed the research, saying the conclusions are not in line with standing preconceived positions. But Israel wasn't so happy.
This attempt to compare Israeli textbooks who deal entirely with the question of how you promote peace, with the Palestinian textbooks that deal with exactly the opposite. How do you promote a culture of confrontation? This comparison is really something is wrong and distorted.
Researchers claim to use a new method that maximized objectivity by focusing only on positive or negative statements, not on truth. For instance, the study says putting the 1972 Olympic massacre in Israeli history books casts Palestinians in a negative light. Why? Because the terrorists who killed the 11 Israeli athletes and coaches were Palestinian.
If facts included in history books in Israel, such as the murder of the Israeli Olympic athletes in Munich, are presented as if Israeli books present Palestinians in a negative way, what else do we need in order to prove that this is a libel against the Ministry of Education?
Researchers admitted the report had its limitations.
We think the textbooks are important, but we certainly know the textbooks aren't the whole story. We do not include the Holy Scripture, nor are there other things. What goes on in the classroom? What goes on in the media?
That's exactly where experts say the study went wrong. Dr. Arnon Groys has studied Palestinian textbooks for over a decade. As a member of the study's advisory panel, he pointed out problems with the process.
They didn't put about 40 items, significant anti-Israeli items, in the Palestinian books.
Cooperwasser says if the study was meant to help the cause of peace, it will do the opposite.
I'm afraid that this report is going to be used in order to whitewash the Palestinians from the need to really tackle the major problem that prevents us from promoting peace here. And this is the ongoing Palestinian incitement.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem. Well, here to talk more about this Palestinian-Israeli textbook story is Julie Stahl. Julie, you researched this story, you produced it. What is some of the reaction you got from some of the experts you've talked to?
Yeah, the experts, some of them said, you know, we knew it would be bad, but we didn't know how bad it was going to be. Dr. Arnon Groys, that was in the story, we had interviewed him earlier, and he said explicitly that it's clear that the Palestinians are preparing the next generation of kids for a delayed war. Maybe they're not going to have a war now. Maybe it's not going to be 10 years from now, but they're preparing them for war. They're preparing them to conquer the entire land of Israel, the entire Holy Land. They're preparing them to get rid of Israel in their texts, in what the things that the schools teach, the teachers teach, the media, and it's all a general, you know, it all works together to kind of present a picture to the children.
Do some of the experts, in particular Dr. Groys, does it feel like this sort of whitewashes the Palestinian textbooks and their particular agenda?
Yeah, I think another expert told me he felt like this was an attempt to kind of equalize Israel and the Palestinians, so the Palestinians wouldn't feel bad, and then maybe they would change their textbooks. But, you know, Israel was very, very angry about it, because to put them on the same level with the Palestinians when they have really tried to have peace education in their textbooks. They have programs where Arabs and Jews work together. They have a whole Arab school system within their school system for 800,000, I think it was, Arab students.
And we showed, actually, in the beginning of the story, you see some Palestinian school children talking about, we will go to Jerusalem. I mean, is this the kind of context where these textbooks are
That's
set?
right. That's right. They're taught those kind of things. The textbooks might not say, let's go kill the Jews, but the underlying message is, this is yours. They've conquered it. They've taken something from you, and you're going to get it back.
Julie, thanks for joining us. In Egypt, mass riots break out against the new president. We have an exclusive interview with the new leader of Egypt's 8 million Coptic Christians.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need, just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
This video is great.
Hey, send it to us.
Done.
Go to CBN.com on your mobile device for a fast, easy way to share your favorite videos.
Egypt's Coptic Christians make up about 10% of the population. Recently, the historic church ordained a new leader, Pope Theodorus II. In the midst of turmoil and civil unrest, the new pope says his countrymen need to love one another. CBN News' Gary Lane brings us this exclusive interview from Cairo.
As Egypt's first Coptic pope in more than 40 years, Theodorus II now leads a church that is spread to 6 continents. Theodorus once served at St. Bishoy's Monastery near Cairo. He had just returned from a spiritual retreat there when we met with him. He says Egyptians are spiritual, yet he worries about contemporary temptations drawing them away from God.
The spiritual health now is somewhat weak due to the materialism and due to the technology, modern technologies.
If their spiritual life is to be strengthened, Egyptians must enter into a relationship with God, says Theodoros. But the country's new constitution may restrict their ability to do that.
Of course, there are some restrictions, yes, for this, especially for the building of the churches.
Pope Theodorus refused to answer a question about Sharia, even though Egypt's new constitution makes it the main source of law. He did discuss the kidnapping of young Christian girls. Many are forced to marry and convert to Islam.
This is a very sensitive issue for us, and this has wounded our hearts.
The Pope says Western human rights organizations can raise awareness and bring pressure, but the matter must be addressed by Egyptians. Suffering is nothing new to Egyptian Christians. They've faced waves of persecution since the 1st century. More recently, nearly 100 Coptic Orthodox Christians have been killed in Egypt since the revolution started 2 years ago. That's more than the previous 10 years combined. Theodorus insists the spilling of blood strengthens the church.
Through the blood, the church will be alive, will be strong, will be effective in their societies.
The rise of the Muslim Brotherhood has actually helped foster greater church unity.
I hope that all the Christians are one. This is my dream. And also, this is what we find in the heart of Jesus Christ, to be one.
What Bible verse encourages the new pope when he faces difficulties and despair? He says it's 1 Corinthians 13, verse 8.
Love never ends or fails. Everything must be based on love. The relation between two friends. My ministry, my service, the church services in every field must be based on love. Why? Because God is love.
Gary Lane, CBN News, Cairo.
Coming up, Israeli allies gather in Jerusalem to show their support for the Jewish state.
An important message for those who have currently applied or are thinking about applying for a reverse mortgage. You've probably seen commercials with famous actors talking about reverse mortgages, telling you how you can eliminate your monthly mortgage payment, still own your home, and live the life of your dreams. Well, most of that is true, but you need the facts. Call now for our 7 Secrets of Reverse Mortgages. This simple-to-read brochure includes information about possible hidden fees, which program benefits you and not the bank, and how to negotiate better terms. We'll give you facts that are easy to understand. You'll learn about the 5 most misleading claims that some lenders make. For example, that you can't lose your home with a reverse mortgage. The fact is, foreclosure may occur if you live somewhere other than the home for a period of time, or you fail to pay real estate taxes or insurance. You need to call to get the facts. Operators are standing by.
Call 1-888-842-6237 or visit our website now.
When you're driving along and your cell phone rings, do your eyes instantly go off the road? Then you need to get a grip. Hi, David Jones here with the new Grip Go, the most versatile hands-free mount that will instantly grip any phone for safe driving. Just attach the suction cup to your windshield or dash, and Grip Go grabs your phone ultra fast. That it peels right off. And don't worry, there's no sticky residue left behind. The 360-degree pivoting mount allows you to always get the perfect viewing angle. It's even strong enough to grab and hold this expensive smartphone out the window. Yet it comes right off with ease. That's the advantage of Grip Go. You can get the amazing Grip Go with dashboard mount for only $14.95. We'll send you a second kit free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Get 2 complete Grip Go systems for just $14.95.
To order Grip Go for $14.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-5259 or order online at getgripgo.com.
CBN TV on CBN.com. All the video you love in one easy-to-use location.
Welcome back. Recently in Jerusalem, the Israeli Allies Foundation recognized Christians who have stood by the Jewish state.
The 2 honorees were Brazilian pastor Renee Terranova and Reverend Petra Held.
O Brasil se levantará.
Brazil is going to rise up.
Como uma das nações de maior apoio ao Estado de Israel.
As one of the nations with greatest support to the nation of Israel.
Lutaremos para isso.
We'll fight for it.
E veremos isso.
And we'll see it.
It's very important to convince the churches, the traditional church members, not to follow the wrong path of an anti-Israelism within the leadership.
Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat told CBN News Christian support for Israel is invaluable.
It's not about politics. It's not about tactical interest. It's a deep strategic interest, that mutual interest that we have. And you cannot buy that. It's not about capital. It's not about money. It's not about anything but deep, deep, strong roots, deep past, and a deep long-term future.
The Israel Allies Foundation plans to expand its efforts to rally Christian support for Israel.
Well, that's it for this edition. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.